Cleared by police, yet his car still sits in a forensic lot as evidence. If the son-in-law is innocent, why is the FBI still scrubbing his upholstery for a 31-day-old silent death sentence?
Honestly, we don't know anything.
No.
We don't know anything. And I just say, I'm so sorry, Mommy. I'm so sorry.
He walked her to the door, watched the garage close, and drove away. But the shadow he left behind is what investigators are still scrubbing for DNA. Tommaso Cioni is a 50-year-old AP biology teacher at Basis Oro Valley. For 15 years, he lived a quiet, academic life in Tucson, studying lizards. On paper, he's the definition of a stable family man, married to Nancy Guthrie for nearly 2 decades. But in a case where an 84-year-old woman vanishes without a trace, quiet is exactly what should worry you. Beyond the classroom, Cioni is also a member of a local rock band called Early Black. He plays bass with them. 9 years ago, they released an album with a title that now feels like a taunt: Life, Love, Murder. Is it just a dark artistic choice? Probably, but when you're the last person to see Nancy Guthrie alive at 9:50 p.m. on January 31st, every lyric and every hobby becomes a potential red flag. In this world, there are no coincidences, only patterns we haven't decoded yet.
And I can't imagine that that is who she saw standing over her bed.
Yeah.
I can't.
At 9:50 p.m., the garage door at Nancy's Tucson home clicked shut, leaving an 84-year-old woman alone with her thoughts. For the next 237 minutes, the house sat in total digital silence. This 237-minute blackout was more than just a gap in the timeline. It was a tactical window. If Nancy was as shaken as witnesses claim following that mysterious afternoon phone call, these 4 hours should have been filled with frantic check-ins or a call to Savannah. Instead, she stayed silent. Why? Because whoever was coming didn't need to break in. They already knew she was paralyzed by a threat closer than the front door. This window gave a predator enough time to verify she was alone and to position themselves perfectly for the 1:47 a.m. blackout. In a kidnapping this clean, you don't want to wait for a lucky break. You exploit a known vulnerability. 4 hours of perfect silence that ended with a digital execution. When veteran journalist Ashley Banfield went live on her podcast, she shared more than just a theory. She dropped a forensic grenade. Citing high-level law enforcement sources with direct knowledge of the Pima County investigation, she named Tommaso Cioni as the prime suspect. In this industry, you don't know that label around unless your source is wearing a badge or holding the case file. Banfield has decades of skin in the game, and she knows the legal weight of that term. While the internet was busy debating the son-in-law's band name, Banfield was reporting on the actual focus of the FBI's internal crosshairs. To the public, he was the helpful family man. To the investigators, he was the last person to touch the door handle before Nancy vanished. The allegedly tag in her report felt like a legal formality, not a doubt. The sheriff called the report reckless, but his next set of words practically confirmed it. When Pima County Sheriff Chris Nano stepped in front of the microphones, he performed a masterclass in forensic wordplay. He called the prime suspect reports reckless and stated that the department didn't have anyone listed as a suspect. Most people heard that as an exoneration, but in a criminal investigation, not listed is a legal placeholder, not a certificate of innocence. It simply means the paperwork hasn't caught up to the evidence yet. Nanos followed that up with a line every reporter should have circled in red: nobody is eliminated. That's a massive admission. In a case involving a celebrity tier victim like Savannah Guthrie's mother, the police are under immense pressure to clear the family quickly to stop the PR bleeding. Yet the sheriff refused to say the word innocent. He chose a phrase that leaves the door wide open for a 3 a.m. raid once the lab work clears. You don't say nobody is eliminated unless you're still waiting for a lab result to prove you right.
In one search, the FBI seized a gray Range Rover about 2 miles away from Nancy Guthrie's home. Investigators were seen taking photos and collecting evidence before towing the car away.
This is where the official story starts to rot. On February 16th, the sheriff told the world the family was cleared, that they were victims, not suspects. But as of today, Nancy Guthrie's car is still sitting in a police impound lot. This is a glaring contradiction. If the police truly believed this family had nothing to do with Nancy's disappearance, that vehicle would have been detailed and returned weeks ago. Instead, it's being held as active evidence. Former FBI Special Agent Jennifer Coffindaffer points to the only logical conclusion. The car itself is a witness. Investigators aren't out looking for blood. They're looking for digital crumbs. Did a third party install a GPS tracker? Did someone interface with the onboard computer to see exactly where that car went during the 4-hour dead zone? The family might be clear in the headlines, but the car is still talking to the FBI. A month later, the family has their freedom, but the police still have the keys to their most private data. Most people think a police search always involves a kicked-in door and a shouted warrant. But in the Guthrie case, the FBI played a much quieter, more lethal game. The searches of Annie and Tommaso's property weren't forced. They were consent searches. If you're a suspect, you say yes because saying no looks like guilt. If you're the FBI, you ask for consent because it bypasses the need for probable cause. It's a strategic shortcut. If they actually had the evidence to convince a judge, they wouldn't be asking for permission. They'd be seizing the hard drives. By keeping it polite, investigators are essentially letting the family hand over the rope. It's a long game tactic designed to see if the digital trail matches the verbal story. The moment that consent was signed, the family lost control of the narrative. They didn't kick down the door because they didn't have to. They were invited in to find what they were looking for. The mainstream report focuses on a single disabled doorbell camera. But the leaked forensic details tell a story of total domestic sabotage. Not only were multiple cameras around Nancy's property offline, but they were physically smashed or systematically bypassed. This is the ultimate inside red flag. A random kidnapper or a drifter doesn't spend precious minutes hunting down hidden lenses in the dark. They grab the victim and run. To blind a house this effectively, you need a blueprint. You need to know exactly where the blind spots are and which angles can see the perimeter. That's not information you get from Google Earth Street View. That's information you absorb over 20 years of Sunday dinners and holiday visits. Someone knew the eyes of that house better than Nancy did. And they made sure those eyes were shut before the real nightmare began. You don't blind a house unless you're afraid the house will recognize you. In any high-profile disappearance, you have to follow the money. And the Guthrie family trail leads to one of the most powerful bank accounts in media. Savannah Guthrie is more than an anchor. She's a global brand sitting on a $50 million net worth. In the eyes of the world, she may have just been an 84-year-old grandmother living a quiet life in Tucson. But in the eyes of a predator, she was a tactical vulnerability. She had limited mobility, she lived alone, and she relied on a pacemaker that could be tracked by anyone with the right credentials. This is the cold reality of soft target kidnapping. You don't go after the high-security celebrity directly. You go after the person they would give everything to protect. Nancy was the weakest link in a very expensive chain. Whoever took her knew that $1 million isn't a reward. It's a down payment on a $50 million negotiation. If the police truly cleared the family, why is the most important piece of evidence still sitting in an impound lot? Let us know your thoughts in the comment section below.